When he was signed from Real Madrid in 2013, Mesut Ozil carried a certain expectation about him, something he delivered upon on his Arsenal debut, setting up Olivier Giroud in the 11th minute of a 3-1 victory over Sunderland. Ozil said of the transfer, quote, "I was certain I would stay at Real Madrid, but afterwards I realized I did not have the faith from the coach or the bosses. I am a player who needs this faith, and that is what I have felt from Arsenal, which is why I have joined."
The guy's so fucking lazy. He's walking around like he don't give a fuck. He don't track back. He's the laziest player in the team. Let's be real now. Yeah? He's the laziest player in the team, blood. But because we've got Ozil, he gets a blind.
And people like Ozil decide, well, I'm not going to turn up today. 300 grand a week. What was he doing today?
How times have changed, as Ozil has been both saviour and villain at Arsenal over the years, with his reputation among some fans dropping with every opponent Ozil fails to chase down. This is of course one of the biggest and most ever-present problems with Ozil since he has arrived in England. He's not a tireless defender when his team doesn't have the ball. He's not going to chase down the opposition, strip them of the ball, and launch a counter-attack. And unfortunately for him, that's what many English fans like to see in their players. Hell, football fans in general like to see that from their players. But it's not always a requirement.
The coach wants from me that I give everything on the pitch, what I do. So I still work hard to reach my aims.
We've seen Premier League players get called lazy in the past. Off at the top of my head, there's Mario Balotelli, Hatem Ben Arfa, and Dimitar Berbatov. But perhaps Berbatov is a better example. Despite not playing in the same position, Berbatov drew the ire of many fans for never hustling very hard, despite his game being more about skill on the ball, strength, and positioning. Something that can be forgiven of strikers, as in that era especially, they weren't expected to defend from the front as often as they are in today's game. In essence, while it may annoy some fans when a striker is lazy, so long as he scores, he'll still get praise. However, when a number 10 is static and doesn't directly contribute on defense, it can be easier for them to become not only a target for the fans' frustrations, but often they will shoulder the blame when results don't go their way. Ozil is a perfect example of this, and perhaps a victim of playing in the wrong league at the wrong time. And I'm not saying he's in the wrong league because he's incapable of playing there. That's not it at all. More that he's playing in a league where graft and running your socks off is celebrated, and oftentimes will excuse an otherwise poor performance from a player. Now, this is of course a generalization, so take from it what you will, but if a player has an off game or a series of off games where they have contributed very little, so long as they are a hard worker, they'll be given a longer leash. And that's especially true in England, though it's also becoming more ever-present in football as a whole. In fact, Jurgen Klopp once said, quote, "We don't have these defined positions in football anymore. They're not actually there. Ask all my offensive midfielders what's your favorite position and they'd say number 10, but no one knows what a 10 is. It's the most intensive defending position in football because you are involved in everything." And that's why players like David Silva, who were midfield maestros, if you will, in their early careers, have gone on to thrive in the Premier League. They've adapted, they've started tracking back, they've added more dimensions to their game as football has evolved in England and across Europe. They haven't stuck strictly to the attacking side of things. But Ozil has stuck to the attacking side of things. He's a player that will do one or two things for you: create opportunities for his teammates, often in abundance, and maybe chip in with a goal once in a while. But given that this is, and you'll have to excuse me as I oversimplify things, given that this is about all that Ozil offers your team, it's going to bring about just as many detractors as it will supporters in an era where midfielders are expected to offer something in both directions. Just last season, it seemed as if some Arsenal faithful were at their wits' end with Ozil due to the reasons mentioned before, but with just 6 months remaining on his contract, Ozil renewed his Arsenal contract until 2021 with a rumoured weekly salary of £350,000, making him the highest paid player in the club's history. Skip ahead now to the 2018-19 season, and Ozil is seemingly fighting not only for a starting spot, but for a spot in Arsenal's matchday squads. The first occasion in which we saw that there may have been issues between Ozil and Emery came at the end of August, when Ozil didn't feature for Arsenal against West Ham due to illness, in quotation marks there. That may be true, but it seems a little bit fishy when there was plenty of speculation that Ozil was dropped from the squad due to a training ground disagreement, many thinking that he was told he'd start on the bench, and he wasn't into that. Of course, there's also the fact that illness is a vague injury typically used as a nice way of saying that a player is dropped, alongside back spasms or just a back injury. I'm not saying that back problems and spasms and illness don't exist, but it's fairly widely believed that it's used as an alternative to when a player has a falling out with a manager, with some even going as far as to thinking it's used when players are at risk of failing a drug test. And that's what I'm saying here. Ozil has a drug problem. No, I'm kidding. That's not it at all. Wipe that from the record. But seriously, there's clearly a disconnect between Emery and Ozil, and it wouldn't be the first time that Emery has had a frosty relationship with one of his club's top players. At PSG, it was widely believed that Neymar ran the show and had more power than Emery. So, doing a quick comparison with Ozil, undoubtedly one of, if not the top dog at Arsenal as far as player personnel goes, it seems as if Emery is using Ozil as an example to prove that he won't be undermined once again. But is this really a hill that Emery wants to die on right now? Is it worth it? Ozil got a regular run of matches following the West Ham match in August, with the crowning achievement undoubtedly being his performance against Leicester at the end of October. Captaining the side, Ozil had a hand in all 3 goals, though he won't get an assist for the second despite his through ball making it possible. He received praise from fans and pundits alike, saying that for the first time this season, and for the first time in a long time, he'd played up to his world-class ability. However, following a draw with Wolves, Ozil was dropped from the Arsenal starting 11 for the first time this season and didn't even come off of the bench against Bournemouth, with Emery claiming that he needed his players to be able to cope with the, quote, physicality and intensity of the Cherries. He wouldn't appear for Arsenal in the Premier League until 1 month later, relegated to the bench again for Arsenal's 3-2 loss to Southampton. Then he was dropped for Arsenal's match against Tottenham in the Carabao Cup in December, and Emery refused to answer any questions about him after and whether he would be sold, saying that he's only focused on the coming matches. Before that, Emery said that if a player isn't in the squad, it's because he isn't needed tactically. He was given the start against a tricky Brighton side on Boxing Day, but was substituted at halftime. Yes, the dreaded halftime substitution, which Emery claimed was a tactical substitution. Did it work? Well, with Ozil on the pitch, Arsenal created 6 chances in the first half and just 1 without him in the second. More recently, he was dropped from Arsenal's match against West Ham despite being healthy and available. With Mkhitaryan injured, Ramsey benched and on his way out of the club, and Ozil seemingly not needed against West Ham in Emery's opinion, Arsenal lacked a creative spark in their attack, with Alex Iwobi carrying the creative load, so to speak. After taking a lot of criticism from fans and pundits for not including Ozil when Arsenal have been dying for some creativity in their play, Unai Emery said, quote, "I decided the players who are the best for this match. At certain times, you have to provoke friction with footballers. From that friction, you could get something more out of them, something from inside, a greater sense of ambition, or maybe even a complaint. A complaint regarding the team can be positive." So, with transfer rumors swirling around Ozil, rumors swirling around about a potential James Rodriguez signing, etc., what does this all mean for Ozil? Has he been a failure, or is he just misunderstood at Arsenal and not getting along with the manager? Well, here's my take on it. Ozil came from Real Madrid with the intention of helping Arsenal win trophies, and alongside Alexis Sanchez, he helped them do just that, at least in the FA Cup, winning 3. He was also the player to hit 50 Premier League assists the fastest, taking just 141 matches to do so, though it's got to be noted that Kevin De Bruyne is well on his way to smashing that record. But regardless, Ozil has neither failed nor hit the heights that were perhaps expected of him at Arsenal. Personally, I think that in this moment, Emery needs to be called into question just as much as the German. If he's given the freedom to do as he pleases and has the right setup around him, he can influence matches to a great degree. But the man that takes care of said setup is making moves that has a lot of Arsenal fans scratching their heads. Torreira on the bench, no Ramsey because he's on his way out, and no Ozil equals no creativity. Sure, if you want, you can look at silly stats like how Xhaka has created the most opportunities for Arsenal in the Premier League this season, but that's disregarding the fact that he's also played 1,795 minutes to Ozil's 981, almost double, and has created just 1 more chance than Ozil. To me, that makes things clear. The sooner Ozil is reintegrated, the better off Arsenal will be. Not even reintegrated, but set up the team as such that they can thrive even without his help in defense. So in conclusion, I think I can boil my opinion down to this. Ozil is a luxury player, and there's no doubt about that. But despite the changing game, that doesn't mean that there's no room for players like him. It's just a matter of whether Emery is willing to allow Ozil to play his way back into form and exhibit his ability, or continue this crusade of leaving him out while Arsenal's form proceeds to checkerboard and their midfield looks completely bereft of creativity. Anyway, that's my take on things, but I'm more interested in hearing from you. Should Ozil leave Arsenal, or would it be a mistake to not utilize him? If you enjoyed this video, then a like or subscription is always appreciated. But other than that, my name's Adrian. I thank you for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!